Welcome back to another episode of Holla at a Scholar. You rolling with your sweet professor. And I want everybody to open up their ears, take out your pens and your pads, your smartphones, fasten your seatbelts because we're about to take this thing to another level. Holla at a Scholar. Man, I'm so excited to be with you guys once again. And just want to talk about a few things. I was thinking about something to talk about on this podcast. And what I want to talk about is something that I believe everybody is going to be able to relate to. What I want to talk about. And, you know, when I come up with whatever my topic may be and whatever I may want to discuss with you guys, I just want you guys to know that I really put some serious thought into what I want to say, which means, you know, I think about how it can help us and how it can actually just help the audience in general. So what I want to talk about is something that is very, I think it's so important, and because it's going to really resonate with you, because it really has resonated with me. And through my experience, I have experienced this particular situation, believe it or not, time and time again, over and over again, for some strange reason. And what I want to talk about, sometimes it may not even make any sense to you, but it will make sense to you when you actually experience it. But for those of us who actually has experienced it, then you would know exactly what I'm talking about. And what I want to talk about is this. I'm going to let the cat out the bag. You know, when you grow, people go. I'm going to say that again. When you grow, people go. Now, you may say to yourself, man, if I'm growing, if I'm doing better, actually, I should have more friends. I should have more support. But I got news for you guys. That is not necessarily true. You know, when you grow, it requires something from you, which means you step out of the zone of being ordinary into another zone. You step into a zone of growth where you are basically trying to take it to the next level. So growth actually requires a change inside of us and a change inside of you. And in life, growth is inevitable, which means that if you want to take it up to another notch, you have to grow. It's important. But what does that has to do, you may say to me, what does that have to do with as we grow, people go? And I'm going to go into that just a little later, but I just want to set the foundation up with growth, because another thing about growth also too, growth actually sometimes can require pain. Growth can actually require sacrifice and denying yourself from certain different things. But, you know, in life, what we find is that most people are pretty much on a timetable. I mean, they do what everybody else pretty much do. You know, the average routine, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Sunday. You know, most people, they go to work, you know, they do their work, that type of thing. They get off of work and then they take care of their responsibilities, families. They have a family, they take care of their family, all those different types of things. But pretty much everything becomes a routine. And people are used to being routine. People, we're all used to just doing things in terms of just having routine, right? But when it comes down to growth, I think that growth is a thing that not only as you grow, the process of growing sometimes can be painful, like I said before, but when you do grow, you feel better. That's one thing that I think that you guys would agree with also too. As you grow, you feel better. However, sometimes as you grow, the people around you, they don't feel better. They get bitter. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes when you're growing, the people that's around you, they don't get better. They get bitter because when you're in the process of actually growing, a lot of times people think that you're changing, which you are changing, but they think that you're changing in a different way. And the reason they think that you're changing in a different way is simply because they are used to being around that old person. They are used to knowing you and what you normally would do. Once again, it's routine. However, when you start to grow, and especially when your growth requires, I'm talking in terms of you trying to really achieve something. Let's say if if you have a career, and your career could be music, and you're trying to pursue your music career. And, it's a lot of things, a lot of sacrifices that you're going to have to make to be able to get to the next level. And the people who you grew up with, or the people that you live with, your family, people, just people around you in general, and you're trying to go to the next level, and then you change. A lot of times people think that your change disassociate them, which means you're changing and you actually are disassociating yourself from them, or you're better than them. You'd be surprised what people think in their mind a lot of times when you're in the process of growing. So, when I talk in terms of when you grow, people go, is because I have experienced that in my life. It's so funny because, and I want to say this also too, in just personally, it's funny because when you do step up and you try to grow and you try to take it to the next level, a lot of time, most of the time, what I've noticed is that the enemy comes around soon as you're trying to grow. When you step out of that ordinary zone and you're trying to get into take it to the next level, that's when the enemy comes in. What I mean by enemy, I'm talking about the enemy in me, the enemy. The enemy tries to come as soon as you're trying to take it up to another notch. As soon as you're trying to step it up, that's when the enemy comes. Some people say devil, but the enemy comes soon as you're trying to take it up to the next level. And the reason the enemy comes is simply because there's a scripture that I always refer to, and the scripture says that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. I want to break that down. The spirit is willing, action verb, but the flesh is weak. The flesh is supposed to do what it does. See, the spirit will say, hey, go to the gym, get fit. The spirit will say, get up early. The spirit will say, hey, don't do that. You have to sacrifice. Let's do this. The spirit will say that. And the flesh will say, don't go to the gym. Let's go eat some of that Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Let's do that. The flesh is supposed to do what it's supposed to do, and the spirit does what it's supposed to do. Okay? It's important. But most people, they exercise their flesh more than they exercise their spirit. And it's done subconsciously. See, no one teaches us and tells us the difference between spirit and flesh. If you're operating on just pure flesh, which means everything is based off of how you feel, I got news for you. You'll never really be able to step it up and grow. You won't have that growth because you're basically in the flesh. But when you learn the difference between the spirit and the flesh, and then you start to exercise your spirit man or your spirit woman, the more you exercise your spirit, you get stronger. And now you have the power to tell your flesh, listen, you can't tell me what to do. You do what I tell you to do. That's very, very important. I'm dropping some nuggets on you guys. What I just told you guys, you better take this and really take it to heart and think about what I just said. And I'm going to break it down once more. See, here's the thing. The spirit is willing, action verb, but the flesh is weak. The flesh is going to do what it's supposed to do. And the spirit is going to do what it should do. And it's sad to say that most people have more power, or most people, in other words, are in their flesh more than they are in their spirit, which means in most cases they're powerless, which means they allow their flesh to control them. They allow their flesh to run them. And one thing about flesh, man, it runs rampant because the flesh is also attached to your emotions. And, most people, they just basically do things based on how they feel. They do things based on how people treat them or what someone says to them. But if you really, really want to grow, man, you got to know exactly how to exercise this spirit, man. Take this spirit, exercise it. And that's the main significance of fasting. See, a lot of people think that when you're fasting, that, I'm fasting, I'm not eating this week. But whether you realize it or not, subconsciously, you're actually exercising your spirit. See, your stomach, man, it's the central part of your body where that hunger is. So if I can tell my stomach no, I can tell a cigarette no. I can tell a temptation no. So it's important that you exercise your spirit every single day. And once you get into the zone of exercising your spirit, I'm telling you, man, your life begins to change. But getting back to what I was talking about in terms of as you grow, people go. It's important that you understand what I was just trying to say to you guys. But here's the thing, what I have experienced in my life. When I was in the streets, and I was in the streets, man, living that fast life. I had no consciousness per se. Everything was pretty much about material things. The things that were important in my life were things that were physical. Hey, man, I want a nice car. I want this. I want that. When I was in that want zone, when I was into my flesh per se, that everything in life basically was pretty much predicated and geared toward physical things. Physical possessions. However, as I grew in terms of wanting to do something different, wanting to change my life, wanted to step up and do something with my life, the friends that I was around during that time, man, they got very, very angry with me. And you would think that people would be happy and support you, but they got angry. The friends that I used to run the streets with and hang around, because when I decided to change my life, there was a lot of people that I had to disassociate myself with. And it didn't have anything to do with me thinking that I was better than them, or whether or not if I was trying to judge them. It was simply because I had made a decision that I wanted to do better. I wanted to step up to the next level. I wanted to, I wanted to be able to create my own destiny. I mean, I had a lot of ambition. I mean, I had a lot of goals that I wanted to achieve in life. I mean, so when I decided to really, really step out on faith and say, hey, man, I got to do something different, I had to make a decision. I had to really make a decision. So one thing about growth, when you decide to grow, you have to make a decision in your life, especially young people. I want you guys to hear this, because a lot of times, you guys think that, you may live for the moment, and you're basically are into the things that you like, and you're trying to do so many different things. So for young people, I really want you to know that there's nothing wrong with having material things. But I think what's important more so than anything for young people, I want you guys to get in touch with you. I want you to get in touch with your spirit. I want you to get in touch with the Creator. I want you to get in touch with what really counts in life. What really counts in life is not the necessities, it's the necessities that count, which means you guys got to get really, really thankful for the things that you do have, that you have your health. You have a place to sleep. You have a food on the table and a roof over your head. Get in touch with yourself. Learn more about yourself. Start studying who you are, because as you're growing up, when you're growing up and you go into school, I realize there's a lot of pressure on young people, because you're trying to basically get a chance to know who you are, and you're stepping up from grade to grade, and that's a process of growth. But however, don't allow the material things to sway you. Don't allow all of the things that you see, the material things, don't allow those things to fool you, because a lot of times those things can be very, very deceptive. So it's important that you get into yourself. And once you get into yourself and you start the process of growing, you can have the growth and all of those things that you desire at the same time. That's what I'm trying to say. However, when I was saying, as far as I'm concerned, coming up and stepping up to the next level, I had to disassociate myself with a lot of people. And one thing about growth, as you grow, your environment change as you grow. That's totally true. Your environment change also too. Not only do your physical environment change, your mental environment changes also too as you grow. Because growth, man, is something that really, really stimulates you, it motivates you, it keeps you pushing when you get in touch with growth, when you get a passion to grow. Then you begin to crave growing. You just can't stay normal. You just can't stay still. You just can't stay in the same spot. But the enemy number one trick is to keep you from growing, just to keep you in the same spot, the same condition. I've noticed it's like, for instance, when you think about like welfare, you spell it backwards, farewell. And they did some statistics. They said that in most cases, if the parent was on welfare, in most cases, the kids are on welfare. That happens. And it doesn't happen in every situation, but it becomes like a generation of repeating the same thing. And not just with welfare, but also other things also too. When you get a condition to working from 9 to 5 every single day, you get conditioned. That's all you used to doing, from 9 to 5, from 9 to 5. The same thing exists. So it's important that you create routines that's going to steer you in the direction of growing, not routines that's going to just keep you in the same place. So, I would say this to everybody that's listening on the podcast. It doesn't matter if whatever you're doing right now, whether you're working on a job, whether you have a career, whatever it may be, if you're doing something and you're staying in the same place and you're not growing, then as far as I'm concerned, that's not a good thing. It doesn't matter what you may be doing. I mean, you could be washing windows, whatever you do. I would encourage you to be the best at what you do. But here's the thing. If you're doing something, the same thing over and over again every single day, but you're not growing, it's not really benefiting you. And a lot of us, we get like that in life. We do the same thing over and over again. We become routine. And then when you become routine, you get to the point where you don't challenge yourself anymore. You don't have a passion to grow. You get comfortable. And I got news for you guys. Nothing happens in the comfort zone. I'm going to say that once more. Nothing happens in the comfort zone. In the comfort zone, the only thing that happens, you get more comfortable. But when you want to grow, like I said earlier, it requires sacrifice. It requires pain. But once you get to that next level, the fulfillment that you get, the joy that you get, man, it's unimaginable. But once again, I want to just say this to you guys, that as you are leading yourself in the direction toward growing and toward accomplishing certain different things in your life, just know that as you grow, people will go. And sometimes, man, it could be someone that's very, very close to you. And when you deal with that situation where as you grow and someone that's close to you and you guys are not meeting eye to eye and you have to step away or you have to disassociate yourself, you got to have enough strength to be able to disassociate yourself for that moment so you can step up to the next level. Because I always tell people this, if you can't take care of yourself, if you can't provide for yourself, how are you going to be able to take care of someone else? How are you going to be able to provide for someone else? And see, when you get into that comfort zone, a lot of times most of us, what we do, we get into people pleasing. That's what I call it, people pleasing. It's like you really search your life and say, how much people pleasing am I doing? How much people pleasing? I have to worry about what my girlfriend says. I have to worry about what my husband says. I have to worry about what my jobs say. I have to worry about what my friends say. I have to worry about this. I have to worry about that. You get into that process. You're just worrying about what everybody else thinks, everybody else's approval. But what about you? What about you? How do you feel about yourself? What about your desires? What about your dreams? What about your destiny? And most people, they spend more time people pleasing and worrying about what someone else thinks. And I got news for you guys. If you live life like that, you're not going to advance. You're not going to grow. You're just going to be comfortable. And see, I can back this up, and you guys can relate to this also too. But that's the reason why the average American is 1 to 2 paychecks away from being homeless. 1 out of 3 in debt. Think about that. See, it's something that I call 40, 40, 40. 40, 40, 40. The average person, they work 40 hours a week. They work for 40 years. And then they try to retire off of 40% of their income. They're about 60% short, which means most people fall short when it comes down to their dream, their destiny, their career. They fall short. And the reason they fall short is because they become routine. They get comfortable, you see? But if you want to grow, you got to get to the point where you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you make a decision that I'm going to grow despite of who may have to go. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to grow despite of who may have to go. Because let me tell you this, if you can't do nothing for yourself, then how are you going to do something for other people? So when you take it to the next step and you reach your accomplishments, or you acquire more, or you get more, now you can bring back more to the people that you do love and the people that you care about. Now, I'm not saying that as you grow, you have to get rid of everybody. That's not true. But what I'm saying to you guys is that I want you to know that when you start the process of growth, and a lot of us are doing that every single day, but you got to look at yourself. But when you get in the process and you start to grow, if you run across people who starts to say things to you, I'm talking about your friends and people that's around you. If people start saying, hey, man, you changed. Listen, give yourself a hand, clap. Yes, you changed, but you changed in a good way. You didn't change in a bad way. Now, you can even tell people that. What I'm telling you now, you can let them know that you're in the process of doing this and doing that. It's not you. It's just that I've been busy. I got a lot I'm doing, a lot on the table. And you can explain this to people, but in most cases, they won't understand because they're used to what they're used to. They're used to you being routined, the routine that you guys would normally have. They're used to you being the same way that you were. But once again, as you grow, people, they'll go. And you know, what I have experienced in life, that I have had to step away from a lot of people. And at some point, I got a chance to reassociate myself with them. And we both got on that growth path. We both got on the growth path. You know, when you grow, I'm telling you guys this, it's like filling the gap. You go up or you either go down. So when you make a decision to grow, you'll go up. And the people who want to be with you, they're going to actually have to come up. They got to fill that gap. But if you try to grow and at the same token, you're trying to reach for the people down on the bottom, man, that's a disaster, a scenario of failure. And you know, we hear about that old saying, crabs in the bucket. But I got news for you guys. Because once again, this is Holla at a Scholar with the Street Professor. And I talk to you guys about real talk. Listen, the crab's in the barrel, you guys, that's just a myth. In actuality, a crab never gets out the barrel. I physically did this myself. I put a bunch of crabs in the barrel and none of the crabs can get out of the barrel. So I said, where did they get this analysis crab out of the barrel? And then I finally put 1 and 2 together. You know, when crabs are in the barrel, crabs really never get out unless you take one of the crabs out. And the crab that you take out, it doesn't want to get back into the barrel. That's the syndrome. A lot of people are picked instead of chosen. So people who are picked, they don't want to go back to where they were. Okay. But when it comes down once again to growth, again, I want you guys to know when you're on your path toward success, when you're on your path toward building, when you're on your path toward changing your life, you're going to have to make a sacrifice at times. And that sacrifice requires a lot. It may require disassociating yourself from certain people or certain friends. It's going to require a lot. If you want to reach your destiny, it's going to require a lot. It's going to require a lot of sacrifice, a lot of pain. And most people, you know, they say that they want to win in life. They say they want to step up to the next level. They want to achieve what they want to achieve. But listen, I'm telling you guys that if you're like I am, you know, I love winning just as bad as I love breathing. I'm going to say that again. I love winning just as bad as I love breathing. And you know, I have to breathe and you have to breathe also too. But when you serious about taking it to the next level, and when you serious about your life and you about accomplishing your goals, accomplishing your dream, you know, you get to the point where you're not going to let anybody get in the way. You're not going to let anybody stop you from growing. You're not going to let anybody stop you from moving to the next level. You're not going to do that. And I'm telling you that if you really, really want to win, you got to be relentless. You got to be committed. You have to be relentless. And if you want to do something you never did, you got to do something you've never done. And in most cases, those individuals who are comfortable day in and day out, they don't like change, but change is good. So if you want to grow, you have to sacrifice something. You have to give up a lot of things. But later on in life, it's going to be so fulfilling because you took that step. And that's what it's all about. So I hope I set a solid foundation for you guys, just to explain to you guys about how important it is when you're on your path toward growing, when you're on your path toward your destiny and trying to achieve what you want to achieve. I'm giving this information because I'm telling you, you're going to run across it rather. And when you do run across it, you heard it from the street scholar. I told you here first. Exactly. When you grow, sometimes people go, but you got to, at that point, when it happens or when a situation occurs, you got to be ready and know that, hey, this is just a part of the process. It's part of the process. And also too, I'll tell you guys this also too. A lot of times, well, most of the time, if you do stay strong and you step up to the next level, the person that you had to disassociate yourself with, you actually are helping them because you've given them the opportunity now to look at themselves, to be able to examine themselves, to see where they are. And if they really, really want to step up, you'll meet them at the top. But for me, I can still go back in my old neighborhood. And listen, I'm in my 50s, but I can go back in my old neighborhood and still see some of the same people there. They haven't grown. They haven't stepped up to the next level. They're still there. But had I stayed in that condition, in that position, I would still be there. And I don't want you guys to get this wrong. It has nothing to do basically with your environment because, you know, it's nothing wrong with the ghetto. But here's the thing. You don't have to have the ghetto inside of you. That's what I mean by that. OK, so it doesn't matter where you are physically, but it does matter where you are spiritually. That's the point that I'm making. So when you do want to step up to the next level, it requires not only a spiritual change, it also requires a physical change. But most people are really, really stuck into the physical based on their emotions, based on how they feel, based on all of that. People pleasing, all those things that I've been talking to you guys about. But when you want to grow, you got to put aside the feelings. You got to exercise your spirit. You got to get strong. You got to control this flesh. And you'll be able to enjoy all the things that you desire. And I want to just leave this with you guys before we get off the podcast today. I want to leave this with you guys. There's a scripture that says, ye seek the kingdom first and all of its righteousness, then all of these things will be added unto you. So listen, you guys, you can, if you seek the kingdom, because the disciples asked Christ, they said, good master, how can we see the kingdom? He said to the disciples, none is good but the creator. None is good but God. The kingdom is within you. So it's important, you guys, that we seek ourselves first. And righteousness simply means maturity, right standing with the creator, right standing with God, maturity. So once you seek yourself, you're mature, all the things that you desire will be added unto you. And that's what it's all about. It's all about making a change in your life. Once you make a change in your life, you guys, you'll have it for a lifetime and not a lunchtime. So I hope that some of the things that I talked to you about today on this podcast, I hope that it helped you guys. I'm sure it did. And I look forward to talking to you guys again, same place, same time next week. God bless you. Stay strong. And once again, I love you. I want to thank everybody for rolling with your street professor. We're going to be here every single week. Same place, same time, Monday. And listen, I want you guys to subscribe right now. And if you want to catch up with me, just simply go to rorydouglas.net Once again, RoryDouglas.net. Holla at a scholar. I got a seat waiting for you in the classroom. Take care.